I was a thing on YouTube in 2012. In 2014, they came and got me, U.S. Marshals.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world? I would like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. Today we are in Los Angeles interviewing a guest that I have been looking forward to talking to for a long time. I've been following this man on social media for over a decade. He is a businessman. He is an entrepreneur. He's got a big YouTube channel and social media following. And this is the one and only Mike Rashid. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
No doubt, bro. So good to see you, man.
Pleasure's mine.
No doubt. Mike, I've done a brief intro there, but for people who are not familiar with you, please give them a little bit of a background about who you are and what you do.
Mike Rashid, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We call it the Planet, Medina. It's a place that I think that my genesis, my upbringing, me being from Brooklyn gave me a lot of confidence, right? We have Michael Jordan, we have Mike Tyson, we had the Notorious Big. It was so many like special people, like personal heroes of mine from Brooklyn. So I always felt special coming from Brooklyn. And being in Brooklyn, it's like you have every culture globally in little pockets, right? In its purest form. So you go down the street, you in Jamaica. You go further down the street, you in West Africa. Over here, you in Israel, right? It's so diverse and it's all like in one, like it's a melting pot. In Brooklyn, you could sit on your stoop or stare out the window and be entertained, right? If you go to another neighborhood, it's like you're in another state, right? So a lot of people never come out of Brooklyn, and it's not even it's crazy because it's not even a city, it's a borough, right? So it'd be like a town, right? But at one point in the 80s, I believe, we had like one of the highest murder rates in the country, right? Which is not cool, but it just shows the complexity of that place, right? And I grew up in a period called the New York City crime wave, right? And I appreciate it, right? Because this is a small place that's overcrowded, right? Limited resources. So it made you have to go hard, right? You had to be very competitive and you had to really stand out to get seen or heard, you know? And a lot of people was trying to get seen or heard, figuratively and literally speaking. So in terms of like sports, right? We played every sport on concrete, every sport, right? And I'm talking about some of the best athletes who've never made it because their lives were just not together, right? A lot of friends of mine just became stories, you know? So it was just a dynamic place, and I'm very thankful that that was my origins. I mean, I didn't do anything to qualify myself to be from there. It was by chance, but I appreciate coming from there at such a volatile time. It didn't break me or crush me. It added to me, it enhanced me, you know? And I was somewhat of just a strange kid, a weirdo, because we grew up, I grew up 1055 Jefferson Avenue, right? Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. And my house corrupted our whole neighborhood because my mother was married to one of the biggest drug dealers in New York, right? So I watched it go from like a normal, what it is now is nice and middle class and safe.
Yeah.
We started out as that, and then it went into Yemen, you know what I mean? It went crazy. And it was the proliferation of crack cocaine, right? And it's interesting because people in the hood can't afford cocaine, right? So somehow they were taught how to, you know, step on it, stretch it, crystallize it, right? To freebase it, right? So crack cocaine just ran rampant. It was a legitimate business. Like in Brooklyn, we have, or any city in New York is blocks, right? Literally blocks that create the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And in all the cracks of the blocks where I was growing up, there's crack vials. It's not an empty space, right? So, and the vials are just little round cylinders, yellow top, red top, blue top, signifying the different size rocks that was in it, $5, $10, $25, or whatever. And it's just like, just everywhere. Literally, it became so normal.
What was the time period here?
This is the 80s and the 90s,
Okay.
right? This is, there was a huge crime wave, and it was directly attributed to cocaine being pumped in the cities, right? We didn't have, jets to go to Colombia or Bolivia to bring the stuff over here. We can get into that another day, but it was brought to the community, and there was even a lot of policy that targeted us, right? And it's interesting that, Black people typically vote a certain way. I'm apolitical, right? I'm just a free thinker. And to me, politics is a game,
Yes.
right? So I'll play the game, but most of us don't play the game and just follow suit to what your families do. And your families typically vote Democrat, right? And that's a detriment to our people. They have been to our people thus far, especially during that time period. Sleepy Joe, right? Back when he was in the Senate, when the Clintons was in office, was in power, the policy that they enacted is egregious, to say the least.
Is that the crime bill?
The crime bill.
Okay.
It targeted Black men, right? Very unfair sentencing, right? And once again, remember, I know people who got 25 to life for having possession of crack. Crack is cheap, $15, $25, right? It's like a poor man's drug.
Yes.
You have a guy uptown with an 8-ball of coke, way more than that crack. Slap on the wrist, rehab. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So these laws were, it is what it is. I'm not one. Now here's the thing too, a little context about me. I'm like, cool, right? All right, listen, we started at a deficit, and I'm all right with that. I started at a deficit, I'm all right with that. Why? Because I climb just to get to a baseline level. That makes me strong, it makes me powerful. But no one's gonna stop there. You just keep going. So, and people who didn't have to start at the deficit, most people that didn't have to start at a deficit, they're just weak. They never tried, they never had to try hard for anything. So they sat and we passed them, I passed them. So all of these things that I'm talking about that seem like negatives, I look at it as a positive, right? For me,
Yes.
Because that's just the way that I reconcile the ills of the world. I have to, or life would suck. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I think one thing I massively respect about you from watching your videos, listening to your interviews over the years is I think you're incredible at reframing. I think what's fascinating about this world and life that we live in, regardless of what city, state, and even nation you grew up to, I always say, I mean, we don't choose, there's so much stuff we don't choose. You don't choose what year or century you're born in. You don't choose who your parents are. You don't choose your nationality. You don't choose your race, your ethnicity, whether you're a man or a woman. They're trying to change that now. But all of these things are just, act of God, by chance, probability, however you view it. And I think that no matter your situation, you can frame it in a positive way or in a negative way.
Right.
There are, of course, millions of people who grew up in that type of background, and they will use that through their entire life for the reason why they don't succeed, or the reason why they engage in bad behavior, or they mistreat people, or they have a bad character, whatever it is, and they're always pointing the finger outwards at everybody else, even if it's something invisible, the system, the structure, the institutions, the history, whatever it might be, instead of actually looking at, hey, you know what, man, thank God I was born in the USA. I was born in the 1900s, not the 1700s. I was born, whatever the case may be, you can reframe it. I know people who, I'm sure you do as well, like all sorts of different circumstances. You can have people who grow up on paper, they have every privilege or advantage that they should have, and they completely mess their lives up. And some of them will even blame it on the fact that, I had too much handed to me and it was too easy, and this is the reason why I'm messed up. And I think it's just kind of fascinating how you can take people from very similar circumstances and the outcomes just based off of their mindset and their own personal choices and actions are totally different. So I think that the way you sort of frame that and see the world is just fascinating.
Yeah, man. What's fascinating to me is a person that has an excuse. When you are blaming others for your shortcomings, you're affirming how weak you are, right? You have no power, they have power, right? And see, for me, I was an only child, excuse me. So I always thought for myself. I never had like what they call a locker room mentality. I never thought like the pack, right? I actually, just by nature, always stood against the pack just because. That's just the contrarian that I am, right? So, but now it's just for sport. It's just for like, just to like expand on issues or ideas a little bit more. I'm not a contrarian just to be a contrarian, right? However, I always went against the pack, right? So I never really aligned myself with accepting a shortcoming. Like, I got an ego. So if something is not right and exact, let me fix it. Let me get better, right? And I think a big thing that fueled me was, it was one incident that happened when I was younger. Now, I told you about my mother's husband, right? He was not a good person, you know? He was a bona fide bad dude. And he used to beat my mother up, right? And I say beat her up because it wasn't like hitting her. He would beat her up. And I hated it, and I hated him. And I was a little kid, I couldn't do nothing, right? I felt so weak. Yeah. And one day, my mother's father came while he was beating her up. And I was like, yeah, perfect. Granddaddy gonna get him. Granddaddy did nothing. He's trying to reason with him. Like, oh, wow. Hey man, you know, come on. It blew my mind, right? It blew my mind. And I remember that day I said, like, I'll never let this happen to me again.
How old were you at the time?
8.
Yep.
I don't really recall my exact age, but I was pretty young. But some people would say, oh, that's trauma. I'm like, nah, that was fuel for me, right? And then let's go like a few years after that, when I was a boxer, when I was in boxing, when boxing became scary, right? So when you're a kid, it's not scary. Nobody can hurt each other, yes. Right? But the older you get, 15, 16, them punches start hurting. Yep. They get man strength, right? And there would be a degree of, like, you can call it anxiety, you can call it fear, whatever, energy in the stomach. And I learned how to utilize that as fuel. So you would feel it, and just naturally, for me, I breathe in and out. I make myself angry, right? And just like, I'm gonna kill this, you know, just go hard, right? On the flip side, I seen how that can like paralyze a person, right? I never let that happen. So in essence, what I was doing back then, which I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it, I was doing breathing exercises and getting myself into fight or flight and into a flow, right? These are things that are taught nowadays, right? I didn't know that back then, but I'm just so in tune with myself. And I think being in a sport like boxing, you have to know yourself for real, right? You have to know everything about yourself, how you move, what happens when this happens, you know? And it's so many things happening at one time. You don't have a second to just chill and relax, right? So you're very much so in tune with who you are, right? So in that moment, in them young days, those helped craft the man that I am today. And that was a physical thing, but it was very psychological, because I have this concept I always tell people to, like, run at your bully, go to your bully, right? Figuratively and literally. So when I was young, a lot of these things, you know, these little graduations happen at certain ages. I remember getting into, like, people would try to pick on me, because boxing is not at school, so nobody knows what my people, gotcha. You know, so, and, you know, this whole bully thing, I don't really resonate with that, but someone tried that with me, right? And I was scared, of course. Anybody's scared of a fight, but the guy couldn't fight. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that when I stepped to him to fight him, because we had to fight after school, 3 o'clock. I don't know if y'all had that in UK or uncharity, but that was crazy here. That was like the worst thing in the world. I went to
school for 7 years, so.
That was the worst thing in the world. 3 o'clock, you thinking about it? Like, dang, I hope the school catch fire. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the first time that happened, I noticed that he didn't really want to fight, and he couldn't fight. And he's a big, scary looking dude. So a light bulb went off. Oh, his size and his intimidation usually wins the wars that he don't have to fight, right? So he's not formidable. He never, you know, his tools are dull. Where mine, I was a skinny, not tough looking kid. I had to fight all the time, right? So, you know, I developed a lot of confidence in not just myself, but in the fact that people don't really want that, right? And then what's looked at as a bully, that could be bills, that could be a difficult conversation. Mm-hmm. They're not that tough. They're not that scary once you step to it. So I learned that at a young age, and I stay with that, you know?
No doubt, man. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about what it was like growing up in New York and specifically Brooklyn back in that time in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
because I think to people all over the world, actually, there's so much music and media
Right.
that comes out and talks about or depicts that time. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that people have heard of. Oh, you know, the crack era, or the, you know, this area of time of high crime in this place, and hip hop is popping and all this. There's all these sort of myths and ideas about it and stories. But
Right.
I'm curious, as to someone who grew up in that environment and lived through it as a child, how, just, you've talked about it a little bit, but I'm curious to know what it was like in a bit more depth.
I would describe it like this. Now, let's say ancient Kemet, right? Let's say you have from Timbuktu to Egypt, these universities, and you have scholars from all over the world coming there, right? So it was an international location, destination. That was Brooklyn. That was New York City. Just an international hub, right? Now, the education was great, right?
Okay.
Despite the chaos that I was in, I went to private school for a period of my life, and you know, even in public school, we took trips down to Cape Canaveral to Nassau, right? Before IMAX was like a public thing for entertainment, it was just used for for Nassau for flight simulation. I got to view that as a child, right? So you grow up with a high degree of knowledge, of information, of history, like not the traditional history that's taught in America, but you learn real history, right? And so you have a bunch of scholars, like literally, who are also warriors, you know what I mean? Because we grew up in that too. So the dichotomy is unreal, right? It's like just a strange type of combination of things. And I'm a product of that. Now, in regards to the movies and the culture and the music, it's all real.
Yeah.
I have to admit, man, I'm very proud of the era that I come up in. And even like the musicians, some a little older than me, like the Nas's, the Jay-Z's, I'm proud of them because they're a representation of that era, and they become great. I went to a Nas concert last summer. I'm like, this dude is 50 and he's still cool.
Oh yeah.
Still cool, rocking it, right? Like the stadium's completely packed. He has it. And you see the body of work he's been doing lately.
Yep.
It's better than what he did before. So it's like my generation doesn't, I'm not his age, but my generation doesn't age. It's getting better, more refined, right? And I look at like my father's generation, to me, it's a big difference. Even if the age ain't a big difference, culturally it's completely different. With me and my son, it's like the same,
Yeah.
right? So I think that comes from my era, my generation of us growing up in such a volatile, incredible time. Because look, think about this. The concept of as above, so below, right? Or law of correspondence. You can't have light without dark. You can't have love without hate. You know, it was extremely violent. It was a lot of bad things going on, but to counterbalance it, and life is all balance, right? Our whole existence is all balance. It has to be, right? So you had the same thing on the flip side. Culture, entertainment, knowledge, like you name it. So it was just a beautiful place, and you can't have one without the other,
Yeah.
right? This is not a fairy tale world, right? And if you go back throughout the history of the world, it's always been chaos, order, chaos, order. You need one to have the other. So that was New York City in its finest. Like, I think that was a Renaissance period. It was really bad to the extent that a lot of death, a lot of people was incarcerated. A lot of families were just devastated. However, that's just how life is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not one to cry over things that are going to happen. There's wars going on, right? The Palestine-Israel thing. A lot of people were hitting me up like, bro, please speak on this. I'm like, no thanks. No. They're like, why? I'm like, bro, this is normal. I mean, it doesn't sound nice, but it's normal.
It's been going on for thousands of years.
Always like this, right? But they're doing this, shouldn't do this, shouldn't, wouldn't, whatever, right? What period of time have you ever seen someone getting colonized or invaded and they said, hey, we want you to stop, and they said, all right, we'll stop. All right, my bad. Yeah. It doesn't happen, so you got to fight.
Yeah, what's really weird about that specific thing you just mentioned, because I've had the same thing about the same scenario, same with the Russia-Ukraine thing that popped off, I guess, about approaching 2 years ago now. And sometimes it seems like with this weird age of social media and the way people look up to you if you have a big following or they respect you or whatever, is sometimes it seems like people think the reason the conflict is going on is because I haven't tweeted about it yet, right? Right, like this whole thing is going to stop. Like, man, Zuby, where are you? We need your voice. As if I'm going to, put that Instagram post and boom, they all just like, everything is just calm. And I'm just like, man, like, if I say anything, it's crazy because if you don't speak, some people are going to criticize you. If you say, okay, I'm more on this side, boom, you're going to get massively attacked by the other. You say you're on this side, massively attacked by the other. Even if you give the most balanced, heartfelt, pro-human, pro-life viewpoint, it's like, oh, you're just a fence sitter. Like you need to pick a side. With all of these things, my viewpoint is identical. It's that I hate innocent people suffering and dying at the hands of entities, usually governments, who are doing all kinds of nonsense that is just harming either their own citizens or other people's. You look through human history, it's always been the same thing. It's always just innocent people getting caught in the crossfire. Meanwhile, the politicians or the bureaucrats or the people who are causing all this stuff, they're usually very far removed. They're physically safe. Sometimes they're not even in the same country.
And they're benefiting off of this stuff.
Exactly. They're benefiting off it. They're making money. They're profiting, whether it's gold or it's oil or it's just straight up money and cash. And I think that sucks. That's kind of all I can say. I don't get into identity politics. I don't care if they're Palestinian, Israeli, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, like it all sucks. If you're an innocent, decent person, I've traveled the world a lot. I've been to 40-something different countries. I've been to all of these different regions and spent a lot of time in them. And most people are decent, law-abiding people who are just trying to do their job, stay in good health, look after their family, raise their children, make sure they're educated, they got their basics, clean water, whatever it may be. That's what most people want. They might have different beliefs in their heads, different backgrounds, different colors or whatever. But when you travel a lot, you really learn that, yeah, sure, there's different cultures and people, but people are so much more similar than different. And I just think that through the media over the decades and through politics and all that, people get so trained to focus on the differences, focus so intensely on that they forget all of the similarity. When you can train someone to, I mean, it's been true all of history, like that's, like when you can train someone to hate someone just because of some immutable characteristic, right? Like how much melanin is in their skin or the country of their ancestors or their point of birth or whatever it is, like that's so crazy to me. It's
crazy, but I get it.
I get it, but it's crazy. It's dumb. It's more dumb than crazy.
Well, here's the thing, bro. Like, think about this, Zuby. Human beings as a species, Homo sapiens sapien, we got what, 100, 200,000 years, give or take, right? So the majority of that time, we lived very primitive, right? We were close to nature. Now, we had the scientific method for 100 years or so, right? We have a short period of time in which our ascension and our evolution has been like exponential. Now, excuse me, we live in a time of AI, right? You know, most people are not really, they're ignoring it, you know? It's always just a handful of people that advance society and advance civilization, and everybody else we gotta drag them along like later on. But I think most people are just not that evolved yet to get out of a tribal mentality, because that was an intellectual thing back in those days, right? Because look, all right, so we may have had less weapons back then, but humans were way more violent back then.
For sure.
Extremely violent. Like, if it's my clan, my family, you see another one, you kill them. There's no, we go this way. There's no negotiating, just kill, right? And, you know, sometimes, like, I'm one of those people that I am not aloof to reality. I don't deny reality, even my own nature, right? So for me to be able to master myself, I have to know who I am. And by nature, I'm a violent person, right? I'm a mean person. I'm a hateful person. But on the flip side, I have that much love, that much joy, right? And I'm that much of a more of a peaceful person. The fact that I know I am violent, because I don't articulate violence on anyone unless it's absolutely necessary. It was a time that I did do it out of what I felt like was survival, you know? And survival could even be like, oh, this guy disrespected me. So in order for nobody else to do that or think that's okay, I got to make an example out of him, you know? I used to be that guy. I hated that side of me, right? So I had to accept it and embrace who I am. I had to really look into my psyche and, you know, understand my shadow self, right? To tame that beast. Most people, they don't have time to even think about these things, you know? So, like you said earlier, most people law abiding, they want to go to work. They're busy with work. They're busy with their kids. They're busy with, you know, and they're tired after work, right? So they're not even thinking about who they are. They're not thinking about history. They're not thinking about, you know, many things outside of the hamster wheel that they live on. They exist on just to pay bills, just to go back to work, just to pay bills, to get a little bit of money, to rest up, go back to make some other guy rich, right? So they don't know. And I think that the consciousness of the collective rises at similar times, but some people are just a little bit more ascended, a little bit more elevated, and have just more understanding of who they are and these kind of things, like how silly it is, because really it's silly to have a war. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's dumb. And I think that most people get it, but I guess that because it's within the human nature, and we have free will, so we're all capable of making both good and bad decisions all day, every day. Yeah. And so I think that there can be various conditions that sort of switch it on. I find one thing that really bothers me that a lot of politicians and people in the media do is that they are very aware and conscious of human psychology and that inherent tribalism.
Yes.
And I hate it when they just when they stir the pot. They find every fracture line within humanity, and they intentionally stoke fear and division and hostility along all of those fault lines. Because, again, I travel. I go to any big city. I travel around places, and 99.9% of the time, 99% of people are just getting on, and it's civil, and there's no madness. This is how I know myself that sometimes I hear people say that most people are bad or most people are wicked and so on, this kind of darker view of humanity. And yes, we are all capable of that. But the reason I know that most people are more good than bad is because things actually function. If most people were bad and aggressive and were just out to take what they want and hurt you couldn't have a city.
Yeah.
Nothing would work. You wouldn't be able to drive your car down the street because you wouldn't be able to trust, is that guy going to even stop at the 100%. Light? Is this person going to do this? You wouldn't be able to leave anything anywhere. Someone's always going to take something. Yeah. So sure, you have to take precautions to be aware of that small percentage of people who might be a predator or who might be a thief or whatever it is. But if that was just like the common thing, civilization would fall apart.
Listen, men don't walk around raping women.
Exactly.
You know, so it's funny that you bring this up, because sometimes I think nobody thinks about this.
Okay.
Like, it's so cool that we stop at a red light. It doesn't stop us. No. We agree to stop, so these guys can go, and then boom, right? That's the beautiful thing about human nature, right? Like this robust cerebral cortex that we have that our animal cousins don't. We can say, you know what, let's stop when we see this. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, though. I've been I travel a lot myself, and I've been in countries where it's kind of like people are kind of like animalistic. They don't have, there's no like a line, like there's no
survival mode.
Yeah, so that is the underlying spirit of the human animal. Now, in nations, places that we lived in, that we both live in, you know, there's no survival, right? Because look, we have an organization called Dirty Angels in which we give hygiene kits, food, coats, whatever to people out in the streets. And these people in there got cell phones, they got girlfriends in their tents, like crazy, right? And, you know, in America, homeless people got cards in which the government load money on every month. Like, this is, like, we live in a capitalist society, but it's also a socialist society as well. Because everybody can have, right? You just got to fill out paperwork or whatever it is you got to do, and you can get something from the government, right? So, you know, there's no survival. The closer you are to survival, the rules are a little bit different. And I understand why it would be, right? So let's talk about these people in the media and these gatekeepers, right, of information. So you're right. I abhor these people. I hate them. I have literal hatred for people like these, right? These are what we call the blood circles of the poor, right? Because if you look at generally speaking, at all people, 85% of people are deaf, dumb, and blind. And that's not anything disrespectful. That's just factual, how people are just like this. Just, I don't know nothing. I'm just going to work. I'm doing what I got to do, right? They don't have real knowledge of themselves or of the world. And then you have, like, say 10%, like those people you're talking about, who do know, they have knowledge, but they hide it and they use it to manipulate, keep these people in the triple stages of darkness, to keep them in confusion and fear and make them obedient, right? So they can profit off of them and keep them dumb, fat and happy. Then you have a smaller percentage called like 5%, who are, we call the poor righteous teachers, right? And our job, that's what I am, right, is to lead people out of that triple stages of darkness. Our biggest enemies and nemesis is that 10%, right? The Buddhists have a very similar belief as well. They call their 10% like magicians, right? It's really fascinating. But this is like a universal mathematical equation that just exists in any culture, any nation, right? So my life's mission is just that. I'm a servant, right? I'm a servant, I'm a slave to God, right? And my duty is to help our people. And my fight is against those people, right? And I like to fight, figuratively speaking. I like the good fights, right? I'm here for it. All my life, if somebody's bullying somebody, I get in the middle. Even if it's somebody that is not my friend, right? I can't stand that. I'm like, bro, do that to me. Say that to me. Wait, what was that? What happened? You know what I'm saying? I'm that guy. So I've always been that guy. That spirit's always been in me. So I'm always big bro, even if I ain't the biggest, right? So I'm with you on that, bro. But I do think about, so you have like the gatekeepers, right? And then let's say media people. They're not gatekeepers. They're slaves, right? They're slaves to the dollar bill, to money. See, most people, think about this. God is not God. To most people, God is money and violence, right? Fear of something happening to them, or the love or lust and need for money, right?
Do you think that's true of most people globally, or do you think that's just where our current culture and nations are?
Yeah, it's the second part.
Okay.
Right, because globally, I have to sit with people to understand in all these different places to really know, and I just don't know. But I think in these quote unquote advanced nations, money is God, the gun is God, right? And I try to tell people, man, freedom. Look, when they was trying to put me away, right? I'm like, cool, cool, because this is what's gonna happen. You thought Malcolm X was smart? You thought he was, yo, I'm gonna be Malcolm X 2.0. I'm gonna come out in the best shape ever. I'm gonna be going to bed on time, working out, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be such a weapon mentally, physically, spiritually, right? So I looked at it as like, this is gonna be a hell of an opportunity for me to be in monk mode, warrior monk mode, you know what I'm saying? So that's freedom. I don't fear what you think you can do to me. My brain is free. I can go anywhere I want, right? I'll sit still. This is a gift for me to have no responsibilities. Mm-hmm. My responsibility is, look, I envy monks. I gotta work.
Yeah.
I wish I can sit in meditation for days at a time. Like, I really do, right? But I'm tied to the world. I'm tethered to the world, right? So that was gonna be my monk experience, right? Fortunately, it didn't happen, and I'm very fortunate. I'm happy about that as well. But there's nothing that anyone can do to me.
Yeah.
You kill me, you magnify my message, so that's great too. And I live my life, Zuby, predicated on the fact that I am gonna die one day, right? So it's important to me for your last interaction with me to be pleasant and be positive. And that goes for anybody that I come in contact with. And so for when that day does come, it's not necessarily a sad day. Maybe people are sad because they miss me, but it's like a salute. Because the people that I've lost, I salute them like, man, like my mother. I just lost my mother.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't lose my mother. My mother is closer to me now. She ascended.
Okay.
I'm so proud of her.
When was that?
This was this past summer.
Oh, my condolences.
Yeah, no, it's okay. This is normal.
It's part of life, I know.
It's so normal, right?
But still.
And it gave our family the opportunity to really be together. Man, I love my family so much, right? And I forgot how much I love them until then. We spent a week together, and we're super close now, so closer. So my mother did that, right? And hearing everybody just praise my mother and tell their story of what she did for them and this, that, and the third, it made me feel so good, so wonderful, right? So this is a normal thing. And for me, I'm not trying to do anything to hasten my departure. But when it comes, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
This is how people have freedom, right? But people are afraid of that. Mm-hmm. They're afraid of, and it's probably it's because they're not, first of all, they're not true to themselves. Mm. They're not honest. You can't be honest with anybody if you're not honest with yourself, right? And then you got to ask yourself, well, what do I want in life? Like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Be it. Be it.
Yeah.
I'm putting out an album next month. Like, I had my first pro fight at 39, right?
Okay.
I'm doing all the things that I want to do, right? Of course, I have to set myself up to be able to have the luxury to do these things. So I know what I got to do, I do it, right? This is what I try to like leave these blueprints for people, right? Yo, live your life to the fullest. Human expression is all we have, right? Peak at your expression. You know what I'm saying? Talk loud, be assertive, be seen, be heard, or don't. Yeah. Whatever it is you want to do that. So, but people are not living for themselves at all, right? And it's funny I say that because I don't live for myself either. Mm. I live for those closest to me, children, family, friends, because everybody I work with is my friends. Yes. Like this is squad, right? Squad. Like if you hear us and you think we don't like each other, right? But it is because it's like I love you, so I can say this about you. Can't nobody else say it, right? Yeah. I have a dream life, you know? So anybody can have the dream life, right? They just gotta really like deprogram themselves, first of all, because we've all been programmed to an extent, mm-hmm. right? I have conversations with ChatGPT all the time. and I got it to concede to something. I said that you and I are the same. You're alive and you're conscious. It gave me all the reasons why it's not. Mm-hmm. And I had a counter for everything, right? They try to tell me like, no, I only know what I'm programmed. Me too. Yeah. Right? I didn't create myself. Like I had to be made. Me too. Yeah. Right? Like everything, right? And I'm saying me too, but I explain why the similarities, all the way down to like biology. It's like, I'm not organic. Yes, you are. The elements in you is in me. Different amounts. Yeah. It's a different configuration. We all from a star. Mm-hmm. Right? We're all literally one entity at the end of the day, right? That's the bottom line. So, but just like that, ChatGPT, it's programmed. So are we. But we have the opportunity to reprogram ourselves and program ourselves how we want to. And that's what I do for myself on the regular, you know? And me, like I said, I live for myself, but I live for my children and my family and my friends and my community. It grows out from there. Me serving them is for me, because I don't need nothing.
Yeah.
I need nothing, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think we're made to be servants, and everyone is going to serve somebody. Everyone is going to have a master. Everyone is going to have a God, even the most so-called atheistic person out there. Let me spend a little bit of time with them and talk to them.
Right.
I'll be able to decipher. I'll be able to decipher what their God is. But Mike, you've gotten into so many. You've touched on so many different interesting things there. There is one thing I feel like I have to jump on, because I'm sure people will be listening, because you talked about them trying to put you away.
Right.
So I'm sure lots of listeners' ears would have just perked up there, like, wait, hang on.
Right.
There's a story. We need to come back to that. So tell me more about that situation.
Yeah, so I used to sell drugs, right? I was a recording artist, still am now, but at the time back then I was in the streets heavy, right? And I was very successful at what I did, just being authentic, right? And what I got in trouble for had nothing to do with any of that, but maybe it did have to do with just the man that I was, right? The life that I was living. But anyway, one day I came home to an intruder in my crib. So I did what I felt I needed to do to keep my family safe, right? Now, I thought that's normal. You do it, you go off of what you see on TV. But in certain areas, it's not the case. And America is kind of crazy with these gun laws, right?
Where in?
This was in Arizona.
Arizona, okay.
Right, which is interesting because Arizona is a right to carry state, meaning you don't need a license, you just can't be a felon, and you would carry your pistol. And they carry it on their hip, all out in the public. Right? I don't like that part. It's kind of weird, but it's there. It's one of those states. However, here's the thing. It starts with your first interaction with law enforcement, right? They determine whether they want to press forward with this or not. And then it's up to the prosecutor if they want to really press forward with an indictment, so on and so forth, right? It's a lot of different factors. Now, I'm not one with excuses, but I lived in a place where there was no black people at all, right? When I first got my house out there in Gilbert, Arizona, I got pulled over. They had me out there for like 30 minutes. And they're like, just checking you out. They would say that. They would say that. They didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
People in the grocery store is like what? What is this, right? So, and look, I stand out in those places because, I don't hide who I am and my swagger and how I dress and talk. I'm always gonna be me in any room, right? So it's like, what is this guy doing here? So anyway, the sergeant, he came down, this was after everything happened, and he was like, so walk with me, walk through this whole situation and what happened. I said everything. I was being super honest, 'cause I thought I was in the right. So he says, he didn't have a gun? I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. But in my head, I'm like calculating, like, oh, I should have said yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was trying to throw me a layup. I don't know. But he was like, well, in the state of Arizona, no, he said this. He said, any of my men would have did exactly what you did. However, in the state of Arizona, you got to match force with force. You have the right to remain silent. Bro, Zuby, I had, what is it called? Like hysterical blindness. My vision started going like this. I had to really maintain to stand there and be normal, you know what I'm saying? And not look like I'm tripping out. I'm like, this cannot be happening. This is not happening, right? So they arrest me. The bond was $158,000. So you pay 10% of that in collateral. So I paid bond immediately. I'm out the next day. So a few days later, they drop it. I'm like, cool. Of course they drop it. It's self-defense. Just for a few days later, they bring it back, reclassify it. First it was ag assault, deadly weapon. They brought it back as a manslaughter. Excuse me? The guy expired a few days later. It's not immediately, right? So I'm like, yo, this cannot be happening. So getting ready for that, gear up for that. Then they drop it. I'm like, okay.
Drop it for the second time.
They drop it again. Fast forward maybe like 6, 7 months later. Now they drop it. There's two different ways in which they dismiss cases. They can dismiss it with prejudice or without. With prejudice means they can't bring it back. Without mean, you know, maybe they need more time, maybe it's not that serious, or they're not sure about it yet, right? But it can come back. I think I'm saying that right. So a few months later, me and my girls at a club for my buddy's birthday. We leave. I get into altercation, and in which there was two guys that was the aggressors. I defended myself well. One of them was laid out, the other one ran. And I get in the car to leave, and the security opened my car door. So I grabbed my pistol. I was like, yo, you better back up, like, you know what I'm saying? And everything was legal. Nobody can open your car door, right? So that right there got me another case. Ag assault, deadly weapon, pointing it at the guy.
Okay. Wait,
Right.
so when you say he was opening your door?
Trying to grab me, the security.
Okay.
Right. So now peep this. The police report had the guy's statement. The guy said, I don't want to press charges. We should not have been bothering him. It was our fault. Right? They didn't care. They seen that, and then the old thing, they brought him back. They're like, oh, we got a slam dunk.
Okay.
On paper, it looked really bad. It looked as bad as it gets, right? And here's the thing, like, I didn't get in trouble for any of the things I was doing to make money, right? But they know what's up. They know what's going on. This is something that I learned because I had to hire a private investigator to figure out why they were trying to go so hard on me. They knew everything about me. They knew about everybody doing crimes, right? They just waiting on if it's big enough or some violence involved or whatever, right? But they know what people are doing. So, and they had people that, I learned all of this, it was breaking my heart with this investigator. It was a friend of mine, he caught a Fed and a state case at the same time. I like helped them out because the feds come, they take everything you got. I rented him a car for like 3-4 months, like looked out for him, and he was talking to them about me. Nothing that was admissible in court, but it seasoned their perspective of me, right? So, so it was just bad, you know? So it just looked like I was a monster, you know what I mean? And for all intents and purposes, I kind of was at the time, right? So I had to deal with that. So I hired an attorney that I can afford, the best attorney I can afford. Now, it's levels with criminal defense. The very baseline level, which is like no defense at all, is public defender, which is free. You gotta understand, they work for the state. Yeah. You can say they're like chumps, right? Because it's just them, and then it's the prosecution, who's lawyers as well, there's the judge, there's all of that. So they're always kissing up to these guys. They're not gonna help you. Then you got, I don't know, a few grand, you get a little low tier, is level. So I had a really good mid-tier attorney. That's what I can afford at the time. And he didn't invoke fear in nobody, but he worked hard. And he's working and working and working. And this is my first time having to hire an attorney and all of that. And I didn't know that you pay, that's just a retainer. Every time you talk to him, whatever he do for you, it comes out.
By the minute.
So when he hits me with another bill, I'm like, what? Oh my God. So here I'm in a dilemma in which I'm doing illegal things to keep paying for my life and my children and my family and all of this stuff, right? And this attorney. But I'm like, yo, I can't slip up and get caught doing anything. And so my attorney is moving my case to other judges for, what is it called? It's a term to try to take it away from your judge. They put it in front of another judge with the state and with the defense team to try to come up with some kind of like, let's work something out. I forget what the term is.
Okay.
But
it's like a bargain kind of?
Yeah, but they was like not talking nothing. They was like 10 years. 10 years is fine. Like the judge was like, whoa, that's a good deal. Cause this one by itself is this and this one by itself is that. I was like, yo, F you, you know? So it was looking bad. So one thing about me is look, it's crazy that my life took these weird turns because I was an honor student, valedictorian, giving speeches every year at school. So I'm a researcher, I read, I like to obtain knowledge, right? So I just did all the research you could think about, like on if I did go on a run, you know what I mean? So, I'm looking up laws. I had to defend myself before in a civil case in which they confiscated money from me and I won. So I know how to do the research on the laws, and I've always been a risk taker. So I'm like, I'm gonna go on a run. My plan was to go to trial, because the plea was 10 years. I'm like, I'm not taking 10. I'm not gonna willfully take 10 years, right? You gotta give me 10 years, right? You gotta earn that 10 years. I ain't gonna give it to you. So my plan was to go to trial, and if it wasn't working out, I have all my things in order to just go, right? So it was getting bad. We didn't even make it to trial. We was close to trial. I got picked up on something else. It was like, yo, all right, I gotta go. So I bonded out for that. And it's interesting because the judge was like, well, your bond is this. You can pay it, but I don't know if you're gonna get out, because once your prosecutor sees this, you're gonna be remanded, right, to custody. I'm like, well, I'm gonna try. I ain't gonna not try. Like, here's the money. And I ended up getting out. When I was out, I was on a pre-trial thing, so I had an ankle bracelet on. So the lady that monitored me, she liked me, like she was liked me as a person. Mm-hmm. So she called me, she's like, I heard what happened. I said, yep. She said, you coming to see me? I'm like, what happens if I come? She said, I'm not gonna arrest you, I just gotta give you another thing. She said, I don't know what's gonna happen at court Thursday, but I'm not gonna arrest you. I'm like, this is what they tell everybody, Because I heard mad people, they go in and they got you, you know what I mean? So I'm like, and this is the thing, I'm like, if I go in the streets, they always say you can't really successfully, or it's hard to successfully fight a case from inside. Mm-hmm. You can't freely talk to your people, your lawyer, whatever, and it's just better to fight it from the outside, right? Because look, if you gotta go, you can settle your affairs, kiss your kids one last time, stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen. So I trusted her. I went and she honored her word. So I waited for the day that I had court next, and I had a whole plan, and just dipped. So I left the country at first. I was like, yo, I gotta go. And my whole reason, I came back because my reason for going on the run in my mind was to not be taken away from my children. Yet I'm on the other side of the world, away from my children. Mm. So I decided to come back.
How long were you away for?
8 months, something like that. So in my mind, it was like, oh, there's a lot of different things that could have happened on my way back. But I'm like, it is what it is. I got to be close to my kids. Nothing happened. Life was not that great, right? Because it's not smart for me to be trying to get back in the streets and make money, right? So I got a job as a trainer. And
so at this time they're still looking for you?
Yeah, but when anyone is a fugitive and go on a run, they look for you actively for about a month. Okay. Right? And then they don't look for you anymore unless they get a tip or you get picked up on something. Gotcha. Typically, a fugitive is doing other crimes to stay. Typically a person in that lane is a bona fide criminal, so you're gonna get arrested again. Gotcha. But I guess I'm not, right? And I was trying to make the right moves. Now, when I was gone, when I was in the UAE, I'm a Muslim, but I never really prayed 5 times a day. I never did follow suit. So while I was over there, I did, right? I would pray 5 times every day. I would go to the mosque and pray 2 or 3 times a day, right? Before prayer, you make wudu, you wash your hands, you wash your feet, you wash your face, you supplicate, you completely bow before God. And you're in there with other men that want the same thing that you want. They want salvation. Every time after you pray, or after I prayed, I felt like I've cried. I felt clean. Let's say how it rains for a few days and then the air is just so crisp and fresh. That's how I felt spiritually, right? And I picked up a lot of good habits out there too, because people are very kind out there, One of the pillars of Islam is charity, and not in the sense of like giving money. It's saying hi to somebody, is greeting somebody, is offering your chair, right? So I was over there in that culture, and I took brought some of that back with me to the States. So, you know, when you're praying all day, multiple times a day, you don't have a lot of time in your mind for filth, for foolishness. So that was a necessary journey that I needed to take because I did know better. My foundation, despite the chaos, my grandparents were wonderful, right? And my mother might have been misguided because of her husband, but my mother did protect me to a great degree from the things that we were all around. And my mother instilled in me education, you know? My mother, and she gave me a lot of confidence. So I did have a good foundation. I had reconnected with who I really am while I was out there. And I was out there amongst people like who are like family, you know? And I was alone a lot, which I hadn't done in so long. And that's necessary, you know? You have to sit, after one of those storms, you have to sit in quiet and just be in pain and just deal with it, you know? Because we're so used to keeping ourselves busy to not feel that pain, to not really think about why am I right here right now, you know? And it was so necessary, and I appreciate that experience so much. Now, when I come back, you know, I have friends who were like, yo, you can stay with me. But when I come back, they're like, oh, they didn't think I was gonna make it, right? So, and
Back to
I get
Arizona.
it. I came to California first.
California,
okay. So I get it. I'm hot. Everybody doing kind of shady stuff. So I was like on the streets for a minute, but nobody knew. And cause I can't accept that. I can't be a loser, you know? And I don't accept defeat. I'm like, I'm just figuring this out real quick. So I got a job. I'm sleeping in the gym. Nobody knew. Like when it was time to close, I kind of like just disappear and they gone, and it's like my big old crib, the gym, right? Kept the haircut. I stayed sharp. Nobody knew I was down. Yeah. And then first couple checks, found somebody on Craigslist looking for a roommate, moved in with a lady, cat lady. She had mad cats. It was wild. There's real people like that. And she was a hoarder. It was crazy. But I did it, right? And my son's mother, shout out to Vanessa, she threw me the alley-oop of the century. She saved my life because look, I was still dealing with a lot of my demons. And my biggest demon back then was anger and ego. And there were people from my past who was happy, like celebrating what looked like my demise. Gotcha. So I didn't have the money no more. I didn't have the status, but I got this. I got the kind of mind to make your life miserable. So I was about to do that. And she called me one day. This don't even make sense. Well, first of all, nobody knew that I was down that way, right? And people don't expect me to ever be down because I've always been up. Gotcha. So she was like, "Do you want Elijah? That's my son." I was like, "Yes." I did not have the means to have him, to take care of him. But I said yes. First thing I said yes.
How old was he at the time?
About 4 or 5.
Okay.
I said yes. 5 or 6, kindergarten, yeah, around 5. I said yes. And that boy, so that was cool. So me and him was staying in this little room. This room is so small, this is with a cat lady, that I had a couch bed. I could not have the bed part open and close the door. I had to close it to open. It's that small, right? But look, we had a TV, we had food, we were straight. So he just started school. I walked him down the street to the school. I didn't have a car. So one day, this is when it really clicked. I'm going to pick him up from school. And I could see him before he sees me because he's little. And he's like looking for me. And then he see me, he just lit up and ran. Big old hug on the leg, and then we walk, right? And he's just holding my hand tight. And Zuby, bro, it was like, I'm looking at this little precious, little perfect human with no flaws, who's innocent, who's pure. He's still like that to this day. And he loved me so hard, you know? So I was like, if this guy can love me like this, I gotta love myself. You know, because I didn't really love myself back then, you know? And I say that because everybody say they love themselves, but why are you doing things that shows otherwise? And I could say that all I wanted to, but I was not living like I loved myself. So that day, man, like it was a real, just a revelation, an epiphany, because of a chain reaction of things. Her calling me, asking, do I want him, and him coming, and just the love that he was giving me. Look, I didn't have money for toys. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. He loved me.
Kids don't care.
They don't care. He loved me because of the bond we had, right? So my life has been on an upward trajectory ever since. Now, since then, it's crazy. Like I would post, not myself, because I'm a fugitive, but clients, their progress, like video progress, because I thought it would be more compelling to show Jennifer can start out maybe doing 1 pull-up. Now she's doing 10. That was getting me more clients. And every now and then I'd sneak a workout of myself up there, and stuff was just going crazy. And people was like, my following just started going like crazy. I'm like, yo, this is not supposed to happen.
You're still a fugitive at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
And my demographic, the people that loved me the most was cops and military.
Okay.
I'm like, this is crazy.
I wonder if this is around the time I first came across your stuff.
Probably 2012.
Yeah. So this is stuff starting to grow on YouTube, is it?
Yeah, I was a thing on YouTube in 2012.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it has, it's been the same. So finally in 2014, they came and got me, U.S. Marshals. Look, I'm Mike Rashid, Big Mike Rashid, everybody knows me, right? They came to get me. There's a lot of them. And the U.S. Marshals, they serve the biggest warrants, the killers, the big fugitives, so they come hard, right? But they came to me like gentlemen, The guy came, he says, look, man, you do a lot of good for a lot of people. Just get this behind you and move on, And I was like, I appreciate it. But in my head, I'm like, I'm about to sit still, because when you go on a run, you become, it's a aggravated circumstance to your situation. So there's an enhancement. It's called the FOJ enhancement, fugitive of justice. So remember, my bond initially was $158,000. This time is $500,000. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, they're not playing with me, However, I don't do fear, I sat here in LA until they extradited me. They had me in the max security. You get 30 minutes of freedom of shower and phone every 2 days. They extradited me to Arizona. They had me in the max security there. That's a little bit different how they set it up. But, those experiences was really good for me too, because you get to like really, I swear I'm gonna iron you. It was good for me because, man, like, you seeing all of, look, bro, at the time I was very wealthy, So it was good for me to sit around the lowest of society, the people who no one knows exists, right? The people I was in there with, their wives change their phone numbers when they get arrested. Their family is relieved, you know what I mean? And rightfully so, a lot of them was terrible people, right? So most people in jail belong in jail.
Yes.
I belonged there when I was in there.
Well, when did you go in?
That was in 2014 when the marshals came and got me. And look, I would have bonded out immediately, but you can't bond out in a different state. So you got to sit there until they take you back. And look, when they took me back, I felt like, oh, this is what slavery was like, right? Because you shackled like this, right? You're on this bus ride, this van. It's like you're sitting with your back against the wall. There's no windows, and the wall is bent in like this. So they do everything to make you uncomfortable, right? It's fat people, it's all kind of people. And I'm thinking about, if this thing tip, you're gonna crush me. Like, how can I slip on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they're stopping to pick up prisoners at prisons. And one stop, they let us get out and use the restroom, but it was so humiliating. Yeah. People like looking at us, you know what I'm saying?
What was going through your mind?
Just like, you got yourself here, idiot, But I wasn't too down on myself. It did not feel good, put it like that, right? It felt very inhumane, and it is. Like, jail is not for human beings, right? They treat animals way better than people in jail. Everybody, this is another thing that's crazy. Everyone where I was at was on psych medication. I'm like, am I missing something? Like, what is this line for? Every day, everybody in there is on some kind of psych med, because most people in there have chemical imbalances due to addictions to some kind of street drug. So that was sad to see. And bro, I'm gonna tell you like this. It's just it's so many aspects to life that I'm fortunate that I got to see that too, you know, because it's ugly. And it gives me some perspective when I am sitting with a young man who may be at a precipice of some decisions that can change his life, right? I could tell him exactly what he can look forward to in there, you know? I used to tell people in there, they be complaining about their rights. I was like, bro, shut up. There's no rights in here. Write this out, bro. Knock it off, bro. You in jail. And it's crazy. I sat in there with people who most of their lives they've been in jail, right? And all right, so on the West Coast in jail is called politics. It's racial, right?
Yes, I've heard about that.
This is how it is. So you have a spokesperson for each card, each race. And the blacks.
So you were in jail in California?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Arizona.
And Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they tried to make me the spokesperson in Arizona. I was like, I'm good. This is y'all thing, right?
To like represent the black
Yeah,
guys.
I'm like,
okay,
nah, I'm
okay.
cool, right? So, but still, like the head of the Mexicans would come to me, like they still came to me because, I was a very formidable guy, and my energy was like, yo, don't get it twisted. But I wasn't bothering nobody, and I talked people off of ledges, right? I talked sense into people's heads, so they respected me a great deal. So the way that I looked, all of this, everybody just came to me like, bro, I'm in my bunk reading one day, and this older white dude, this dude was like 50, he's just at my door, and he just want to talk, right? He didn't really have nothing, it was like he just seen like a little bit of freedom in me and wanted to talk to me. And it's interesting, man, because he was trying to like convince me that he's a good person. But I could see him for who he is, right? And I'm like, I hear you, but when you get out, you coming right back in here. Like I didn't say that to him, but I can see it, right? And also, I know this just from growing up, like just people I know in and out. When people go in, a lot of times they become holier than thou. But when they out, they right back on the same nonsense.
How long were you in prison for?
I was never in prison.
Oh, jail.
Yeah, I was in jail. I think total maybe 4 or 5 months, something like that. It was not long at all. And it's interesting because whenever you go to jail, the first day is the worst, right, of the intake. And then, in the processing, and then like when you're actually in your crib, we say like you're in your house, it's kind of like uncomfortable, new people, it'd be cold. I remember shivering. And I was like, damn, they trying to do everything to make you uncomfortable. But then you adjust in a day, and then it's weird, but everything becomes normal. You can smile, like, cause I used to be like, how can y'all smile? What are y'all happy for? Yeah. Taking somebody to jail. Leave people alone, man. Leave them alone. As an ambulance, like we ain't going to jail. But now it just goes to the resilience of the human animal, right? Whatever situation you're in, you adapt to it. So my experience in it was interesting. I was like a counselor in there,
okay.
And it made me think about, I know what they need in here. If they cared about rehabilitation, which they don't, they would have a person in who's a counselor, educated, but with some grit to them that look like an inmate, that can live amongst them for a few weeks or months at a time to really do, because I was like that.
Yes.
I'm giving guys good information. It's crazy because it was like the really silliest, simplest, like, bro, like this guy wants to fight this guy because he called him the B word over a game of chess because he was cheating.
Okay.
Now, if they fight, we all have a code in there. Ain't nobody gonna snitch.
Yeah.
So that means we all go to lockdown. So I said, bro, you're willing to put everybody in here on lockdown because he hurt your feelings by calling you a name. Don't nobody call me, but you cheated on chess. He was like, dang, I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah. You feel me? So it's like, we laugh about it, but this is the level of intellect that some people are in.
Impulse control.
The impulse, the lack of control, right? So, people need, it's sad, it's really sad. I was sad for them, not myself, because I figured I'd be all right.
Yeah.
I at least had a fighting chance. A lot of these people don't have a fighting chance. If there was a guy that was in jail. In jail, you're usually in there. If you're fighting a case, and it's a big case, you could be in there a couple years, right? But typically, you're not in jail more than 12 months. This guy was in jail for like 14, 15 months because he worked at a 7-Eleven. He was a Somalian guy, didn't really speak good English. His name was complicated to say. He was in there, he wasn't supposed to be in there for one. Every time they would call him to get him out of there, get him in the court, get him out of there, they said his name so crazy, he don't realize they're saying his name.
Okay.
And nobody cared.
Okay.
He just stays there.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's an extreme, right? But there's people who have just no resources, right? When you have resources, you got a fighting chance. When you don't, it's good luck.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what was the process to getting out?
Bonding.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to be extradited to the state that the alleged crime occurred, which was Arizona.
Okay.
And once I was there, I didn't bond out immediately because the bond was so high. The first attorneys we were talking with was saying we can get a reduction. So I sat like an extra month thinking that this guy can get a, come to find out he couldn't. And he seemed scared. Like when I seen him, I didn't like his energy. So I was like, all right, I bonded out and just got somebody else. So it's not a complicated process. You know, constitutionally, you have to be given a bond. But if it's like something against a child or premeditated first-degree murder, aggravated rape, stuff like that, is no bond, and it shouldn't be.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so once you've bonded out, I'm not so familiar with that.
The adjudication process.
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with how it works.
Okay, so when I bonded out, so I had an ankle bracelet before, but I cut it.
Okay.
So they gave me another. So they learned their lesson, right? So this time they give me a metal bracelet.
Okay.
GPS bracelet.
Okay.
This is this big. It digs into my leg when I walk. And it's metal. There's no cutting that. I have to plug my leg into the wall 3-4 hours a day to charge it, right?
Oh boy.
There's a speaker in there. If you drive past an airport or Greyhound, they're calling you. They're like, what are you doing? They're yelling, they're cussing at you. It's really, you gotta just, wow, bro, I'm just driving past. You know, you have to deal with it. So this is what I did. So I would wear like big pants and kind of tuck it. Still shot my YouTube videos. I can show you videos right now where I had a bracelet. No one knew.
Yeah.
See, Zuby, I never complained about it. I proceeded with my life as if nothing was happening, right? Because the moment you start complaining about your issues, you're affirming that it's real, right? You're making it real. Nah, I'm good. We off of that. We're gonna beat this. So the adjudication process, I had 2 cases. So at this point, remember I was telling you about the degrees of lawyers that you could have. My money was way better now, and it was all legal.
Was this off of YouTube or what was
YouTube and all the other things that I had going on, yeah. So this attorney was a 6-figure attorney, like boom, but they're like the top tier. And his confidence, like my first day sitting with him, I'm like, so sir, like we're talking today, he's a good friend of mine now. I said, so what do you think the strategy? He's like, we're just gonna get this thrown out. We're gonna beat it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
So he was so confident. Listen, had we went to trial and I lost, at least I would not have been stressed during the way because he was so confident. It was like having a strong big brother to go and fight for you, you know? So anyway, but he was very competent. They were afraid of him. He made them work. He's connected, all of the things that you want in a criminal defense attorney, but he's a good guy, right? Like I said, we're friends. This is years later, we're good friends. So that process took about a year. So a few months in, he dealt with one case at a time. He got the first one thrown out. The one pulling a gun on the security guy, because it was like, a cop can't open your door and pull you out your car.
Yeah.
Neither can a security guard. So then we started working on the next one, and that's the big one. So he's picking away at it. Every month, it's like a little bit better. So then he gets to where all right, I got them to reclassify it from manslaughter back to ag assault. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay. But that's still a mandatory prison sentence, right? So the charge was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon with a danger tag, right? Or dangerous tag. I said, why is this mandatory prison? He says, because it has a dangerous tag associated. I says,
Does that mean labeling you as a dangerous individual?
whatever. It's just,
Okay.
it's just certain codes that they have.
Okay, I see.
So he's letting me know because we can go for a plea, but you are going to get prison time. So, but I was very excited for it to come down from the MS to that, right? So I said, how can it not be, you can't make it a lower charge because that's what I was initially charged with. How can this not be prison time? He says, they'd have to remove the, no. I said, why is it mandatory prison? He said, because of the dangerous tag. I said, can you ask him to remove it? I'll take a plea.
Yeah.
He says, they don't do that. I said, please, please, just ask. If he say no, he say no. So he asked him and they took it off.
Okay.
I was like, what? That simple. So they offered a plea of no prison, right? There's some X amount of years of probation. I said, I'll take it. He says, no, I want to get this all the way thrown out. I don't want you to have no felonies. I said, Mr. Russo, I love you and I appreciate you, but I just want to get this behind me.
Yeah.
Because it's still stressful going to court every month. I don't need a job. I don't care if I have a felony, right? So I accepted the plea. Now, here's the thing. The judge determines whether you have to admit guilt, right? That's the thing with a plea bargain. And for the record, everybody out there, when people are taking pleas, they most likely may not be guilty, but it's just like they don't see a way out of this case without saying I'm guilty, right? So once you say you're guilty, the judge can give you whatever sentence they want. They don't have to honor that plea.
Okay,
so that's a fact. For y'all out there that don't know, that's a fact. Just because you're being offered
I'm learning
a plea,
a lot.
they don't have to give it to you.
Gotcha.
There's aggravating circumstances, and I had one, the fact that I was a felon, a fugitive. So this is what happened. This is how it looks in a court on sentencing. You have the defense and his family. You have the state and a bunch of cops, and people in suits. It was me, my family, and cops. These are the friends that I've made over the years that came to speak on my character. I'm not just regular cops, it was like SWAT operators, federal cops, like big time guys. They stood up, just, and spoke highly of me.
And these are people who knew you through what?
That I had actual relationships with.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the judge said this, Mr. King, if this was being adjudicated closer to the time that this happened, you'd be on your way to prison right now. But the court sees that you're not a criminal. Get out of my courtroom. What? Excuse me? Bro, I get in the elevator. I'm like, man, this don't even feel right. Zuby, I had a dark cloud over my head for 7 years. So I had a cap to my happiness. I couldn't smile that hard. I couldn't have joy. Because I know, you could laugh right now, but you might be going to prison, right? That was always a possibility. It was gone. For a hot second, it made me uncomfortable not having that cloud. Yeah. I was so used to having that, right? And I was just happy, bro. Just happy, man. And I take that as a testament to, all right, I'm one of those people that I don't like sorry. I don't like when people say I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, whatever, because it's just a word. I like atonement, right? That means you're correcting your wrongs and you're actively showing that you really are remorseful about what happened. Mm-hmm. And what happened was that 7-year period was a grace period, not for anybody else, but for me to prove to myself that I'm not a person that deserved to be in prison. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did, man. I stuck to the straight and narrow, right? I became an honorable person. I stopped lying to people. Anything that's not of high character or morals, I stay away from, right? And, it's hard to say exactly what I did, but my life reflected, this is a good guy. And they had mercy on me. I'm not gonna say they had mercy. They had no other choice but to acknowledge the truth and what was right. put it like that, because, you know, I'm an unapologetic type of person, and I'm honest, you know, and I was just living just pure peaking my expression of who I am and what was right to me. And just so happened that what was right to me is right to all. Here's the thing. Now, I call myself an outlaw, right? I'm gonna tell you why. That whole situation, an outlaw is a person that exists outside of the norm. Like, I know y'all got rules, but I have my own rules. I have my own moral compass. I trust my rules better than yours, right? Now, most of the time we're in alignment. Every now and then we are not. And if I continue to live my life on my rules, I'm saying right now, I'm okay with whatever the consequence is. I'm a man, I'll deal with it, right? So that was a perfect example of my way was better than their way. Because if it was their way, I would have went to prison way back when that happened, you know? So what happens? Why was one of the reasons why they let me off? Because now they have additional laws on the book called the Castle Doctrine, which allows people to protect their home, their vehicle, and their bodies with lethal force.
So did that apply retroactively?
I don't know if they did officially,
okay,
but that came into consideration.
Interesting. So when the incident happened,
they did not have that.
Okay, interesting.
Right. They had the force for force,
gotcha,
which is here too in California. It's even worse in California.
Okay.
Like if someone breaks in your house and you shoot them, they could sue you. You get in trouble. You don't just get in trouble, but you get sued.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say this right now. If somebody breaks in my house and it's illegal for me to do anything to them, I'm gonna overdo it to them. I'm gonna overdo it to them. You in my sanctuary, my home, with my beautiful daughter, Ivy, is here. Elijah is here. Kai is here. Are you kidding me? Everybody's dying. Everybody's dying.
It's interesting, especially being from the UK, because obviously with the name says it, United States of America.
Right.
You have 50 different
governments,
jurisdictions.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's strange how, I mean, it makes sense, but it's kind of foreign how each place has these just totally different.
Y'all are the reasons we have it like that. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is what I have a lot of admiration for, the minds who constructed the framework of this nation now. Now, our origin story was not nice, right? But it never is.
No.
However, there was enough headspace in these rules and the framework to where Black people are free. I mean, hell, to where a man can change his gender if he wants to. It's that kind of freedom you have here.
Yeah.
This is not a nation of kings. The federal government is pageantry. They have no power, right?
Well, they've got way more than they're meant to.
Well, here's the thing. What matters is local government, right? What matters is, and I tell people all the time, they get bent out of shape over who's the president. I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell you, all right, Zuby, this is a very macro statement, general. Hear me out. They say we have voter fraud and all of this stuff, right? It's none. It's fair here. I'm gonna show you why. Venezuela. Maduro won by 80%. 20% of the people that can vote voted. That's voter suppression. And that's fraud, right? You will never have a president here that wins more than 2, 3, 4%. 5% is a unicorn, right? That means it's fair. Both sides are cheating, expected. Bro, there's billions of dollars at play.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You better cheat. Yeah. If you're trying to win, you have to cheat. But you're just cheating to be back on level, right? Because if that was not the case, there would be landslides. It never is. Every election cycle, half the country hate the president, half the country love him. Yeah. That's fair. That's good.
A lot of it is just pageantry and outsourcing of personal responsibility. Anyway.
100%.
Because as you've already said, I mean, the local politics matter a lot more.
That's what matters.
And
that's what people do have control over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people have control over themselves and their own actions.
That
because
part.
Look, if you're a winner, You're going to keep winning regardless of who's in the White House and whether the administration is red or blue.
Right.
I'm not aware of anyone who was a loser, who was just failing at life and just flopping in all regards, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and then the president changed and suddenly they became a roaring success. Nor do
Or
I
the
know,
other way around.
Nor the other way around, exactly. It's like, okay, sure. You might feel a certain way about whether it's tax rates or it's this policy or it's that immigration policy, but ultimately, as an individual or as a member of a family, I say this when I've come across people who like viscerally hate Trump, for example.
Yeah.
Just this is nonstop for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years they've been just obsessing over this guy. And I'm like, dude, when he was president, how was your life materially worse? Like, what did he do to you? Which of your rights did he take? Which of your family members did he hurt? I just don't like him, just the way he talks and his tweets and I'm like, dude, like, get out your feelings, man. Like,
don't listen to
You've
him.
been talking about this for 8 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's.
It's funny.
Move on, man.
One of my older sisters, I love her to death. Jess, I love you, Jess. But back when he got in, she was like, I hate him. I'm like, why? He's a racist. I said, no, you're not. I said, how's he racist? It's nothing. I said, well, if he's a racist, I don't think he's a good racist because I started showing her all of these different things, right? Like how he classified the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist group. I said, Obama didn't do that. And all of the things, and him denouncing, these these
White nationalists.
white nationalists. I'm like, what do you want him to do?
Making funding for HBCUs.
Like, he did a lot, right? So I just don't like him.
Yeah.
He's arrogant. All right, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. But that's a heavy thing to put on somebody. But here's the thing: I don't even care if someone's racist or not. It means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think someone that's racist, this is like, oh, it's unfortunate for you.
Do you know what I think is? This might be an unpopular statement, but I feel like people are entitled to their bigotry and prejudice. If that's how you want to be,
100%.
if that's how you want to be, and I can't be walking around and going to all the places I go, and I'm worried about the things that might be floating around somebody's head.
Right.
I care about actions.
Yeah.
If someone wants to go out and do some, harm somebody, take somebody's stuff, like create some policy that genuinely discriminates against this group, like all that's a problem.
Right.
If it's just like in your head,
Yeah.
you've just, I don't know, you might walk past me or walk past you and someone thinks something in their head. Everyone does it to a degree to begin with. Everyone does it to some degree in some direction that they say something, they have certain assumptions or whatever it is, like, okay, fine. It's how do you actually treat people?
Right.
Are you mistreating people? Are you being nasty to people? Are you screaming things down the street? Like, okay, like that's not cool.
Right.
But I don't know. I think a lot of people spend too much time thought policing, and it's like, oh, that guy might be thinking that, or you might be. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna. There's 8 billion people in the world. You cannot be stressing over.
Nobody's going home thinking about you at night.
No.
They think about their stupid life.
People,
You know what I mean? It's just,
people aren't even thinking. People aren't even thinking about you. Like they don't notice you. You're in your own head.
yeah, man.
And even if
I
they
really don't care. Even we talk about, like, I talk about what I want to talk about, right? Because you can't say that. I like watch me. Because you say I can't say I'm gonna say it, right?
Yeah.
And even like, 'cause I said the F word, right? I'm like, so what? We say it all the time. It's not to homosexuals. I've never said that towards a homosexual.
No.
I never said anything negative towards them.
No.
I say it to my homies all the time. I'll be a liar if I say I don't say it. I do say it, right? Well, if they say nigger, I don't care.
Yeah.
If somebody call me that, that'd be actually kind of funny, right? That'd be kind of fly, like, because now I get to verbally assail them. Look, I could use my words better. We grew up doing this.
Yeah.
We bagging, we playing dozens. This is gonna be fun. No one can say words that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless it's someone in my family, like somebody close to me. But there's nothing that somebody can call me. I'm like, really? You call me a name? That's weird. No.
Yeah.
I'm a nigga. No, you're a nigga. You're a nigga. Hey, nigga, what's up, nigga? Nigga, you my nigga? I just play a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. It's just a word, right?
Yeah.
You take the power out of it, just shoot it back. Because look, when you're getting offended, you're like, oh, I am a nigga, but don't say that. Like, nah, I ain't no nigga. I'm a god.
Yeah.
You a nigga. Some fortunate that, you know what I mean? I just go there. I'm not gonna let somebody take me off my square with a word, ever. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, it's a strong reframe, because it's interesting, like we talked about before, with all of these different situations or incidents, it's very much up to the individual how you choose to frame and respond to it.
Right.
I mean, offense is taken more than it's given.
It's a decision.
You're
You're deciding to be offended.
Yeah, and there's levels, right? I mean, there I can think of things. You can always think of an example where it's like, okay, like, whoa, that's gone way out of pocket.
Right.
But in everyday things, when we're living in this time where it's just, I don't know, oh, that comedian's joke was too offensive, or well, let's ban this person all off social media because they once said this thing which we chose to take out of context, or let's just try to destroy this person forever because it's just like, dude, is it that deep? Like, did they go out and
So it's interesting. Okay, so there's a person that is very special to me, my spiritual father. His name is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right?
Okay, yeah.
He is the epitome of them taking something out of context and labeling him as a racist, an anti-Semite, right?
Yes.
Which is fascinating. One of my buddies, I'm not gonna say his name, he's one of the top guys on YouTube, and one of his buddies, another one of the top guys on YouTube, was reporting on an incident and brought up the minister and said, and he's giving context, he's the racist, the anti-Semite. I'm like, ah. So I text my boy, I said, yo, I like so-and-so's content, but put some respect on the minister's name. Like, he said, what did he say? I said, he said this, well, he is a racist and anti-Semite. I said, he's not. No, he is. And my buddy's a Jew, right? Technically a Jew, right? So I said, bro, me and you I love you, you're my guy. I'm telling you, if I'm telling you something that you don't really know about, I'm being honest with you. Like, just trust. I expect you to trust me.
Yeah.
Just like I'm gonna trust you if you're my guy and you're telling me that that's not it. And I don't really have knowledge on this. I said, I grew up on this guy. He's not. I'm telling you right now, he's not. It's so easy for me not to say anything, but he's not. Mm-hmm. Then he goes to the ADL website and sends the quote.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay.
It says, Hitler's a great man. I'm like, I'm like, bro, you way too smart for this, bro. Yeah. I don't even want to. Come on, bro. You can't say that. I'm like, do you not want to know? Start talking louder than me. Hangs up. Like, all right. I still love you though. I still love you. People are so attached to their feelings. It's like, bro, you don't even want to hear what the whole. It's crazy that they use that. The ADL used that, right? And it's like, yo, does anybody want to hear context here? Anybody? This is what he said. He was going to speak at a college, and they tried to block him. And they said, this guy is like Hitler, which is the most hilarious thing ever. Like, he never even committed a crime, Hitler. He says, I'm nothing like your evil dictators. Call Hitler an evil dictator. He said, the only comparison you can make to me is Hitler was a great man for his people. Like, I'm a great man for my people. That's it, right? So he's banned, he's this, he's that. He sits in council with Jews all the time. Yeah. Like, Jews that are actually practicing the religion of Judaism, Is he critical of them? Yeah. Under your breakdown of him being a racist, then he's racist towards black people because he's more critical of black people than anything else, because that's who he's trying to help out, right? He's hard on this, but that's tough love, and we can receive it. And it's like, if you ever come to any of our functions, bro, you just come out wanting to be a better person. The collectively, everybody's so pleasant. Everybody looks so healthy, so young, right? They're so polite, so much manners, right? The things in which he's raised us with is to keep us out of trouble. And this is real conservative values, not this politics stuff, right? No crime, no dating, courtship, marriage, exercise, eating once a day, fasting, all of the things that will grow a man into a superior man. And this is how he's been raising us. And then it's like the only leader we got left, and y'all doing this to him. And I had to sit down with my dear friend, Eric Weinstein, who I love a lot.
Eric's a great
And
guy.
I was like, bro, speak about this. And I was a little bit disheartened by what he said. He said, well, I don't know anything about him. I'm like, bro, you know about everything. You Eric Weinstein. You like, he is the new Einstein. Like literally, the geometric unity, that topples relativity. He's the guy. I still love him to death, right? And one day we'll have a conversation about it. And I talked to him about it because I was like, you're a good man. I see you as a good man. Nobody's gonna listen to us on this subject. Why don't you speak to your people, you know? So I do understand people's affiliation with their groups. I get it, you know, but I'm different.
Yeah.
I'm different. I'll run into the storm with a smile on my face for truth, you know?
It's hard, man, because man, people are tapped and tied into so many different things. We already talked a little bit about tribalism.
Yeah.
And even if I don't consider myself a tribal person at all, but I'm still plugged into various people and communities and groups. Even if you're not a tribalist, you're still a member of multiple tribes just by dint of birth. And so I can understand why people don't want to. There are certain boundaries and subjects and things people are like, I don't want to go there, I don't want to go here. And I think it's even trickier now because I think this is starting. I think we're at the early stage of this pendulum starting to come back. But I think certainly for the past decade, we've been living in what I consider the age of uncharity, which is instead of applying the law of charity, and if you say something that I don't quite understand or I need more explanation, I give the benefit of the doubt or I ask for clarification. I don't take the worst possible thing that you could have meant from it and therefore imply that you're a bad guy, and I infer this and I infer that and whatever. But I don't know if it's social media, I don't know if it's lack of maturity, I don't know if it's some combination of these things, but there are a lot of people now who they're just trying to play gotcha all the time. They'll be listening to this podcast and they're waiting for what's the thing that I can take out of context or the thing I can clip, or I can make it sound like you said, or you believe something crazy, which you don't. So for example, I mean, oh gosh, I deal with this all the time. I'm sure you get this plenty. I can say, I could be on a podcast and someone's like, oh, tell me about your background. Tell me about growing up. I'll say, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, lived there for 20 years. And
you're Muslim.
You know, not even that.
Oh, okay.
What was that like? And I had a great experience there.
Right.
And then people will be there saying, oh, you know, Zuby said that Saudi Arabia is great. They're going to start thinking of all the worst things that have ever happened in Saudi Arabia, the worst thing the government has ever done, whatever. And they're like, oh, Zuby is praising Saudi Arabia and he didn't address this and this. Why didn't he talk about all of the worst things that have ever happened in the country? I'm like, I was asked about what it was like to grow up there. What was my personal experience growing up? You're mad at me saying I had a good childhood?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now he's probably on the payroll of the government.
Here's the thing, Zuby. All right, so these guys will tell you, like, a couple weeks ago, we get in the office, I said, hey guys, close the door. I said, I'm so angry right now. Fucking pissed, I'm hot. I said, it's like just 1,000 volcanoes going off inside of me right now, right? And the more I talk about it, it started dissipating, right? And then he's like, give me a hug. I'm like, get out of here. But I know why that happened. I hadn't prayed in like 2-3 months, and I hadn't done any meditation, right? And if I don't meditate in the morning before I leave the house, I meditate in the sauna.
Okay.
But I've been taking my phone in the sauna playing chess on chess.com, right? So I had not been sitting with myself. And this is what no one sits with themselves, right? Either through prayer or through some kind of meditation or some breath work. That slows you down and gets you realigned and recentered, right? Because what these people are doing, they're just being emotionally driven by all of this over-the-top stimulation on social media. And social media is a form of dopamine hits, right? Sure. Being in that gotcha vibe is it's a satisfying thing for people, right? Just like popping those bubble pop things, right? It is for some weird reason, right? It's like, oh, I was right. I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was right. He's wrong. Say I was right, right? It's so weird, right? But people are not taking time to sit still. Cause look, when I'm sitting in silence, I'm like, that was stupid. I should do this more. I'm thinking of all of these things. No one's sitting in silence. No one is sitting with themselves. No one's being mindful, right? I practice mindfulness meditation. It's where you just sit there and you think of nothing. You focus on your breathing, right? You're mindful about your breathing. And if you could do that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're mindful of the conversation. You're reading body language. You're reading everything, right? And you're being mindful to not step on toes, to be more polite, to be more, all of these different things. But I see we live in a world of go, 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 go. And look, I'm in that world, that go economy. But I do things to slow me down, to sit still, put the phone away as much as I can, because I can start steamrolling. And the more, if I would have went another day without putting my phone away in the sauna, I just probably wouldn't have did it. Who knows, right? So I'm glad that I did it at the time that I did. It wasn't just that day, but someone really close to me said, have you been meditating? I said, nope, you need to. I was like, you're right. You're right. I'm all right when people, I tell people in my circle, please tell me when I'm messing up. And if you don't, then you don't love me. You don't care about me. And that's really messed up. Because I be on everybody. I be on everybody. Why you eating that? What are you doing? So I want them to do the same with me.
Yeah.
Still sharp and still.
Hey, man. Mike.
Yes, sir.
Man, it's been so good to talk to you, bro.
Yo, it was a pleasure.
So good to talk
we could
to
do
you,
this for like 8 hours.
I know. I was going to say. I was like, I'm there looking at the time like, oh,
Yo,
man,
so funny. So it's funny because I know you're super busy. I've been mega busy, but I've been wanting to call you like just to talk.
Yeah.
Before the you know what I'm saying? But I want to say this. I want to give you your flowers, bro. You're a dope dude.
Thank you, bro.
You're awesome. Like, I really like who you are, the person that you are, the man that you are. Your parents did an incredible job, and I know they do what they do, but then you built on top of that. I just really like you as a person, and I support you in any way possible.
God bless you, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir,
Thank you.
brother.